This is a presentation on how to care for an extremely ill chicken. If you have to do a rehab for someone who is extremely sick, if you anticipate coming across someone who has come from an environment where they're not well taken care of, these are some things to be aware of. And my name is Julianne Perry, and I am an organizer and an open rescue and undercover investigator with Direct Action Everywhere. The first thing that you need to do is visit sanctuaries. Farm sanctuaries are places where farmed animals are rescued and taken to live out their lives and are well taken care of in the manner that, for instance, someone who really loves their dog would take care of them. So this is where you're going to see the standard of care that you should be aiming for. And I would advise doing 5 sanctuary visits. It doesn't have to be to 5 different sanctuaries. You can go to the same one. But just so you can see some basic caretaking before you decide to take care of an individual yourself. These are some various sanctuaries around the country that I have been fortunate to visit and volunteer at, and you can see that we are extremely lucky here in the Bay Area, having a lot of sanctuaries right around here. And you can also go to Wikipedia, actually has a list of animal sanctuaries, which is very helpful. That is how I found Vine Sanctuary, where I volunteered at when I was getting my master's degree in New Hampshire. So the first thing that you definitely want to do is see how sanctuaries operate. Once you have a sick hen, the first thing that you need to be concerned with is hydration. You need to get them water. You can mix in electrolytes with the water, but usually water is just fine. And we're going to see an example of what you do here. You just put some water in a bowl, and then you just hold it up to their face. Sometimes if they're really weak, you may have to actually bring it so close that their beak touches it, and then they will sense there's water, and that may help them drink. And you can see that you're going to have to be very patient because they drink a little bit at a time, especially if they've been debeaked. It's going to be difficult for them to drink. And this is where having a container that can hang off of the edge of some wire is very helpful, because if you put it on the floor, she might kick it over. So it's helpful if you can have something that hangs right here. You always want to have water available 24/7 and make sure it's clean and make sure it doesn't get anything else wet. The second thing is feeding. So what you're going to want to get for food is just what they call a crumble. You just go to your local feed store and ask them for chicken feed for egg-laying hens. Again, you want to have water available 24/7. And all this food, you want to make food available all the time. You want to always have it available for them when they're hungry, especially if they're an egg-laying hen. If they're a hen that has been bred to be killed for meat, that is a different story that you can discuss with the local sanctuary for what they advise so they don't get too heavy. They also love a lot of fruits, especially grapes, watermelon, and spinach. You are going to want to cut these up into very tiny pieces, like mincing pieces, because if they try to eat one whole or one that's too big, it could get caught in their throat. You can also cook their eggs that they lay. This is something that a lot of sanctuaries do, and they actually crumble up the shells and they'll scramble the eggs and the shells together because there's a lot of nutrients in there, and there's especially calcium in the shell. Now, what happens if you put food in front of someone and they won't eat, or if someone is really, really weak? You may have to hand feed them. And I have an example here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the crumble that you bought from the feed store, you're going to put it in a blender with water, and you're going to blend it until it's like a soupy texture. And you're going to buy a device like this, like a plunger, which you can get at the veterinarian. And one thing I don't think I mentioned is as soon as you get this hen, you should take her to the vet. And you should have a vet visit and see what they think you should do. So back to hand feeding. You're going to use this plunger and you're going to take in this soupy texture of the crumble and the water. And what you're going to need to do, you can see this hen is very sick. She's not even standing on her own. You're going to have to force her beak open with your fingers, and she's probably not going to like that. And then you're just going to put a little drop on their tongue and wait for them to respond. And you can see she is not responding. So I'm going to put a little more in her mouth. Again, force her beak open a little bit. Squeeze a tiny bit of food in there. And then wait for her to respond. Trying again one more time. Oh, there she goes. And now she's tasted it. And you can see their tongue will move and their beak will move up and down a little bit once they realize, there she goes. She realized she has food in her mouth. And this is probably the first food that she's had in a long time. So again, you're going to force her beak open a bit. There we go. Now she's eating. That's really great. Oh, now she's perking up. And you can see that this is going to require a lot of patience because you have to give her a drop at a time all the food that she needs. Caring for a sick hen takes a long time. You want to feed them every few hours and until their crop is full, or their crop is their stomach that I will show you in a little bit. Some supplies that you're probably going to need. You're going to want wood shavings or hay to put down as bedding and to clean, because hens cannot be potty trained, and so they'll just go to the bathroom wherever. And every day you're going to want to clean up all of the wood shavings or hay that is wet or has poop on it, and you're going to want to dispose of that and put down new wood shavings or hay. You're going to want some kind of enclosure because they like to go everywhere, and again, they will go to the bathroom everywhere. So I've taken care of hens in a spare bedroom or in a bathroom, and I generally have some kind of pen, or if it's small enough area and I don't care if they poop everywhere, like a bathroom, then you may not need one. A good thing to put down is a tarp, even if you are in a bathroom and they have free range. That will make it a lot easier to clean up. You're going to want some towels. Food cups, and like I said earlier, it's really great if you can find some that hang on wire, which you can usually find at your local pet store for $3 or $4. I like to have like 6 on hand, one for water, one for their crumble, one for some fruit, some cut up fruit, and one for their eggs, and then a few that are clean so I can switch things out, because you don't know what she's going to like, you don't know what she's going to eat. And so you want to be able to monitor what she is eating as well. And so here you can tell, if you have them in different food cups, you can see what she likes and doesn't like. You're going to have to get food, like I said, the crumble and maybe some fruit. A syringe, that's what it's called, that you saw earlier when I was hand feeding. It's good to have those on hand if you need to hand feed. Trash bags, because there's going to be a lot of fecal matter and dirty wood shavings or hay that you're going to have to clean out every few hours, at least once a day. You're going to want to have gloves in case you need to protect your hands. And the number one thing that you're thinking of when you're taking care of this animal is everything should be clean, dry, and warm. Those are your top priorities. So let's talk about some illnesses. Prolapse is incredibly common. These girls are laying eggs almost every day if they're an egg-laying hen. And sometimes they push out so much that they push part of their inside. And you can see right here, that little red spot, that is actually part of her internal organ. And as she was trying to push an egg out, it actually came out. And this is a not fully formed egg. You can see it kind of looks like a rubber glove. She didn't have enough calcium in her body to make a full hard shell. And so the egg actually broke inside of her. And luckily, she pushed out all of the matter, so there was no egg inside of her. We took her to an emergency vet. If anything ever goes wrong, go to the vet. And she actually did survive. And this was in the middle of the night when it happened, and we ended up surprisingly, paying just over $300 for a prolapse emergency visit and an X-ray. And I've been told by people that's actually conservative. So you do want to set aside probably about $2,000 per hen if you're taking care of someone, because you never know how many vet visits you're going to need and what she's going to go through. Another thing that has happened before is maggots, and I'll show you that next. This is what happens if you don't keep a living space clean and dry. Flies, a common housefly, will lay their eggs wherever something is wet and moist. And if someone has an open wound, or if there is some feces or a cracked egg that has been laying there for a day or two, that's a perfect place for an egg to lay, or a fly to lay their eggs, and that results in maggots. So let me show you one girl that I took care of that made a full recovery. You can see her here on the right. And so you could kind of see there, it's a little blurry, but all those little things right there are maggots. And this entire circle here, they had eaten away her flesh. That should be covered just like over here, but there was a huge area there where they had eaten it away, and we had to do quite a bit of rehab. We had definitely had to take her to the vet, and I had to lay her on her side and with tweezers pull out every single maggot, and there were hundreds in there. So this is what happens if you don't clean the area and if you don't keep it dry. So constant cleaning is extremely important, and it's actually pretty rare for a hen to be able to pull through this, and Abby was extremely strong and brave, and we're so glad that she pulled through. So the last thing I'm going to show you is one of the first things that you should do, but I think it's a good thing to end on, which is a health check. And we're going to walk through this. This is something that I learned at Animal Place, and this is just to get an overview of if there's anything apparently wrong with the hen. This is something you should do with every hen, just so you can see with your eyes if there's anything that you should be looking out for. And girls don't like to be held, but when it's for their own good, it is okay. But you do want to limit the amount of handling you do. And what you're going to see on her, that is a lot of caked on feces, which can be pretty common if you're taking a girl from a very crowded situation. That's okay, but like you might have just heard me say, you're going to want to take a warm washcloth or maybe a basin and put in some warm water, and you're going to want to soak that until it comes off very easily, and just with a warm washcloth wipe it away. And that's going to take a while, but you do want to make sure they're clean because that's a feeding ground for flies and maggots. And what you see right here, she's got some scabbing. That is common in a crowded area because hens are going to peck at each other. If it's all scabbed over, that's okay, but you do want to keep an eye on that for any kind of infection, which is going to be a lot of redness, swelling, and pus or discharge. But when it's just a scab, that's good. She pecked at herself. She has dirty feet. That's okay. That's going to happen in a crowded area. That should wipe off as she walks around. You want to hold them firmly so that they can't escape, but obviously not too tight. But usually animal rights activists err on the side of too soft, so you do want to securely hold them. And what you're seeing here is a really good hold for a bird. It's kind of like a baby. You're going to put one arm underneath them, underneath their wing like this. This other hand you're going to want to have right over their wing in case they flap so you can calm them down. And you always want to make sure that their head is above their body. Don't hold them so that their head is down here because they need to be able to breathe. So what I'm doing first is looking at her ears. And their ears are just this little hole in the side of their head, and they have feathers covering them. So you're going to need to use your finger to pull back the feathers so you can see inside. And you just want to make sure that hole is clear, that there's nothing stuck in there. If there is, you're going to want to use a Q-tip very carefully to get it away. And make sure there's no, pus or swelling or redness. Make sure you check both sides on all of these. Also going to want to look at their eyes. That's going to be pretty easy. This is what, you know, a healthy eye looks like. You'll be able to tell if an eye is unhealthy. And if you're ever wondering if something is abnormal, just look on either the other side of the body or look at another chicken and see if it's normal. I think what I'm going to do now is look in her mouth. As you can tell, chickens do not like it when you force their mouth open. So that's a little difficult. You might have to try a few times. There we go. And you're just looking down their throat to make sure that nothing is caught in their throat. A common thing that can happen is their wing can be broken. So when you're handling a chicken, they flap their wings when they panic, so this is a little difficult, but you want to open up their wing and look for any black and blue skin. That's indicative of bruising and maybe a broken wing. So we're just checking under the feathers for any black and blue skin. And something you want to look for their nails. If their nails are really long, they're going to need a trim. This is just like a dog. You're going to check for where the quick is, and you want to cut close to that, but do not cut their quick or it will bleed. If their nails are too long, their feet can be deformed from having to walk around with long curled nails, so that's why you want to trim them. I'm going to show you. So right about here, right where you would think their chest is where their crop is. And you want to feel that crop for anything weird, any foreign object they might have swallowed, or maybe a lump. And that's, depending on how full that is, you're going to tell if they're hungry or not. And these are things you're going to learn in a sanctuary. And then the last thing I'm doing is checking her vent. Again, the vent is where the egg comes out and where they poop from. That was actually one of the first things we did. So what you do is you're going to pull up their back tail feathers, because there might be a lot of feathers around here. And you're just going to want to look around here for anything weird. So that's a health check. I think that might be the end. And that is the end. If you have questions, visit your local sanctuary. If you have any concerns, go to the vet. And if you don't know how to get plugged into this, visit us at directactioneverywhere.com. And we can plug you in with a chapter in your area that can train you how to advocate for animals and to be involved in animal care.